in the position that they want to be. But as we're looking at the leads on the field here, Aaron's going to be leading with that Duraludon as well as the Whimsicott, and we're actually going to see Joshua match the Whimsicott and also bring Excadrill.
Right, so the Whimsicott's matching each other here, but you know, the Excadrill actually has a pretty strong matchup against Duraludon because it does have that ground typing against Duraludon's steel typing. So it does threaten that very strong super effective damage with something like an Earthquake, possibly high horsepower, any ground type attack here. But the Whimsicott's here, it'll be interesting to see what they go for here because, you know, if one is carrying Trick Room and one is not, that could be a pretty big shift in momentum. You know, Joshua's team actually looks like it could benefit pretty well from Trick Room too. We do have a Rakmonid, pretty slow Pokemon. Umbreon's not too fast either. So it wouldn't be surprised to see either of these Whimsicott carrying that Trick Room attack.
That would be very interesting to see here, but players are just kind of taking their time in order to really think about what's going to happen in the next couple of turns. You can't just think about turn one when you are looking at how to really put the speed in your favor. You got to be looking at everything, but right off the bat, it's actually going to be enough. It looks to be almost a offensive Dynamax here. We're actually going to see the Duraludon take on its Dynamax form right away.
Yeah, Duraludon, very strong Dynamax Pokemon, has access to some very good Dynamax moves, like the Steel Spike and the Wormwind, two of the best in the game right now. So a pretty common Pokemon that you'll see using that Dynamax.
But it's actually going to be a Max Guard, so a little bit more of a defensive here. Whimsicott going for a taunt onto Josh's Whimsicott here, and can't use Tailwind now. So that's actually a great choice for Aaron to use in this first turn, but Focus Sash with that Iron Head is going to allow Aaron's Whimsicott to hang on.
Yeah, so the Max Guard from the Duraludon a bit unfortunate for Aaron because he does burn that turn of Dynamax, without really getting much out of it. He does prevent the Tailwind from Josh's Whimsicott, which is big. So now if Aaron's Whimsicott is running Tailwind, he'll be able to get up this turn and make sure that Duraludon is attacking first. But otherwise, not getting anything out of that first turn of Dynamax. And when you only have 3 turns, that's a really important resource to manage.
I would have almost liked, that's kind of why I said, let's go for an offensive Dynamax here. Because I would have loved to see that Duraludon actually make a big move here. I think it would have been able to put Excadrill or Whimsicott within knockout range.
Yeah.
So would have hoped for that. But it is going to now be time for the Tailwind to come out from Aaron's side of the field, and it's going to allow this Duraludon to move first Max Heal Spike into the Whimsicott, and that's going to also proc the Focus Sash on Joshua's side.
Yeah, we do see that Focus Sash, the defense boost coming in handy for the Duraludon, specifically against this Excadrill, which will be threatening a very strong physical attack. Not a big deal for the Whimsicott because it is, on its last legs already, but we do see the Moonblast coming out from a Whimsicott on Josh's side to finish off the Whimsicott on Aaron's end.
I think what's also really important to note is that we saw, I believe that was Life Orb on the Duraludon. It lost a little bit of its HP there, but that defense boost was huge.
Also interesting to note was that the Excadrill also had that Life Orb. We just see high horsepower going to Duraludon, and pretty big chunk of damage. About enough that would probably be a knockout. If the Duraludon was not max. So good to know for both players. Get some information there right off the bat. But Aaron does bring in this Rotom Heat, which is threatening pretty big KO on this Excadrill with something like an Overheat, a very strong fire type attack.
Next turn, going to be important for Aaron to kind of even the score here. Because they are down with 1 Pokemon disadvantage at the moment. Yeah,
he does have that Pokemon disadvantage, but Josh's Whimsicott is still pretty low. Any one attack will be able to knock it out. And he does have this Duraludon with another turn of Dynamax left. Josh, on the other hand, he does have the speed disadvantage. He doesn't have that Tailwind up himself, but he has yet to Dynamax a Pokemon. So once Aaron's Duraludon ends its Dynamax duration, then Josh will be, able to Dynamax something else and pretty much take full control of the game with his Dynamax Pokemon from there.
Well, here's a Pokemon we don't get a chance to see too often here. It's going to be Umbreon hitting the field for Whimsicott's stead, and Excadrill on Joshua's side is also going to be going for a Protect, but it's not going to be able to protect it through this Max Wormwind that the Duraludon is pressuring on this side of the field.
Very smart Max Wormwind there. Obviously Max Wormwind would not have affected the Whimsicott thanks to its fairy typing. And Aaron likely knowing that Josh would have protected the Excadrill just to make sure he doesn't take much damage with that from the last Max move. But Nasty Plot coming out from Rotom to boost that special attack. A very huge turn for Aaron there.
Yeah, it gets a chance to get the Nasty Plot off for completely free, and that's going to threaten so much damage. You already talked about how Overheat might be an issue for Joshua to deal with.
No, that's a huge Nasty Plot. Aaron gets the attack drop on the Excadrill thanks to that Max Wormwind. he doesn't fall for the bait in doing something like overheating the Whimsicott just to knock it out. He gets that +2 boost to special attacks. Now this Rotom's going to be threatening a lot of damage onto any target. Umbreon, known as a very bulky Pokemon, very likely not going to be knocked out by one attack from this Rotom, but the Excadrill will certainly be felled by a single overheat, especially at this +2 special attack. And neither of these Pokemon are really threatening the Rotom or the Duraludon right now because the Tailwind is still up on Aaron's end.
Tailwind's going to be up for a couple more turns, so that is something that Aaron's going to be able to take advantage of here. And we still don't know what the final Pokemon is for either player.
Right.
I think that could actually be fairly huge here, but Joshua might reveal that now. It's actually going to be the Chandelure in the back.
Yeah, Chandelure coming in, likely carrying that Flash Fire ability, which will prevent it from taking any damage from an overheat from this Rotom. But Aaron reading so well into that, going straight for a Draco Meteor into that slot. Coming off that Life Orb, that is going to do so much damage.
It does do so much damage, and you are going to see a special attack drop onto the Duraludon, but it might not matter because the Duraludon ended up doing exactly what its job should be, getting the Dynamax off as well as getting the clean knockout onto that Chandelure, and overheat does so much damage.
Wow. I just mentioned Umbreon, known as a bulky Pokemon, but Rotom saying, I got this nasty plot boost. I'm still going to fire this overheat off, and there's not really much you can do about it. And it looks like, one overheat may have been able to finish off the Umbreon, but we do see the Snarl come out from Umbreon. Now these both Pokemon on Aaron's end actually just use a special attack that drops their special attack by 2. So now Duraludon is at -3, I believe, on Rotom now at -1. So even though he did lose the Chandelure to that Draco Meteor on the switch, the Umbreon putting both these Pokemon in a position where they're hitting for less damage than they normally would like to be.
Well, Whimsicott coming back in. I mean, Tailwind's about to end fairly soon here, so this might be where Joshua gets a chance to reposition and say, hey, well, I was taunted before, but I might be able to get off the move that I wanted to with this Whimsicott.
Right. No, this Whimsicott coming in, it did, survive that one attack with its Focus Sash, and it is no longer taunted. It does get this Tailwind off, so this is going to be Josh's chance, to, put the speed back in his advantage and possibly try to win this game with his Excadrill in the back.
Well, Flash Cannon, even though you are going to have the special attack drop there on the Duraludon, it can take out that 1 HP, no problem. Just be able to blow over that Whimsicott here, but another overheat is not actually going to be enough to finish the job. That special attack drop really mattering. Yeah,
there's another Snarl coming out from Umbreon. Both these Pokemon are, -4 Duraludon. I think Rotom's now at -4 as well, so neither of them doing a whole lot of damage. Snarl actually enough to take out the Duraludon. So Umbreon, using its, bulk and its access to that Snarl to chip away at these two Pokemon and get that knockout on Duraludon. So we're going to see Aaron's last Pokemon here.
We are going to see Aaron's last Pokemon, but we are going to see the Excadrill come back on Joshua's side, and it's Conkeldurr.
Yep. That's actually just what Aaron needed here. So if Conkeldurr is carrying the Mach Punch attack, that is going to be, increased priority, and we will be able to hit this Excadrill or the Umbreon before they can move. Even though that Tailwind is up, it does have that +1 priority. So this is a perfect Pokemon for Aaron to have in the back here. Excadrill does threaten some pretty good damage onto Conkeldurr, but, something like a Mach Punch should be able to knock both of them out. And even if not, it does have access to moves like Drain Punch that can help it recover some of its HP. And, Conkeldurr, pretty bulky Pokemon overall.
Definitely going to with over 200 HP. I mean, that's just a lot. So
definitely.
That's definitely going to be difficult to take out here. But it's finally time.
There we go.
We have our second Dynamax of this game. It felt like a long time since we really saw Duraludon get removed from the Dynamax form, but it is time for Excadrill to take that form now, and that's going to be threatening quite a bit of pressure onto Aaron.
Yeah, so this is a very well managed resource from Josh here. He kept this Excadrill and he saved that Dynamax ability for the very end of this game. He does go for the Steel Spike into Conkeldurr, which will be raising its defense. So even though it doesn't get knocked out by the Steel Spike, this Conkeldurr has one chance to kind of throw off a fighting type attack into this Excadrill and hope that the defense boost isn't enough to save it.
Umbreon going for a yawn though into the Conkeldurr. This is good. This is actually really good from Joshua, because if this doesn't work, then this is kind of the win condition that Josh was going for here.
Right.
Does get the burn though. Oh, and the Drain Punch isn't enough.
It's interesting because now that the burn it's huge. It reduces Excadrill's attack. It's only going to be doing half the damage it wants to be with those physical attacks. The Drain Punch wasn't enough to knock out the Excadrill, but if the Conkeldurr is carrying Mach Punch, it still has a chance to possibly Mach Punch. Might not knock it out, but it could put it in range for one more burn. And then Excadrill may not have the ability to take out both these Pokemon before it needs to.
Well, we're about to see it here. Excadrill going for a Max Guard, though. Wants to read Aaron like a book. But Mach Punch going into the Umbreon will be enough to knock it out, and that's going to leave Excadrill as the last Pokemon for Joshua.
Yeah, so a very smart Max Guard there. The Mach Punch protecting it from the overheat in this case, but possibly trying to catch a Mach Punch into the Excadrill, but Aaron reading very correctly into that, takes out the Umbreon, but the Max Guard also stalls out the Yawn turns. Now Conkeldurr is asleep. The Excadrill has a couple turns left. I believe we did see the Mold Breaker ability, so if it is carrying a ground type attack, we'll be able to damage this Rotom through the Levitate, very likely knock it out, even through that burn. Rotom does not like taking these ground type attacks thanks to that double weakness.
No, it does not. Max Quake is going to land its mark, and Rotom is also going to get knocked out. It's just going to be down to Excadrill versus Conkeldurr.
And I believe, based on the damage we saw from the Max Steel Spike a couple turns ago, I don't know if Excadrill will be able to take out this Conkeldurr with one more hit. So Josh needs this Excadrill to stay asleep as long as possible. And even, well, yeah, the Dynamax ends now, so he may even need to, possibly get an Iron Head flinch or something. But, as soon as this Excadrill, or the Conkeldurr wakes up, we'll be able to Mach Punch. And the Excadrill is actually within range of one more Life Orb. So as soon as it attacks, it has to knock out this Conkeldurr this turn or else Aaron will win the game.
Well, Excadrill's going for high horsepower. It is going to connect. Does a decent chip of damage, but Excadrill's going to faint from the recoil, and that is going to be Aaron taking game one. Yeah, so Aaron, having that Conkeldurr in the back when he needed it was very, very good. Conkeldurr facing down Excadrill and Umbreon. As a fighting type Pokemon, you want to be seeing steel types and dark types in front of you. The Drain Punch coming in very handy. It did get a big Drain Punch off on that Dynamax Excadrill. Didn't knock it out, but gave it a huge chunk of damage, and it put it in a position where the combination of Life Orb damage and burn damage was able to chip it down low enough such that, at the very end there, we did just see the Excadrill have one more attack before it did get knocked out by the Life Orb. I do love the Mold Breaker ability, though. It's very good, yeah. And especially on a team like Josh's where, there is no Sand Setter. So there's no Trinitar, there's no Gigalith, there's no Hippowdon to give you that Sand Rush boost. Mold Breaker is very good because it does allow Excadrill to hit those Pokemon with that Levitate ability with ground type attacks. So Rotom, any of the Rotom forms, in this case Rotom Heat, generally very good against Sand Rush Excadrill because they are immune to those ground type attacks. But in this case, Excadrill ignoring that Levitate with Mold Breaker, scoring that clean KO with high horsepower. Very close game, though, between these two players, so I'm expecting a lot out of this game, too, as well. But when you're thinking about adaptations and adjustments, I really feel as though both Josh and Aaron played very well in game one, so I can't really think of a scenario where they have to adjust too much. Right. It's interesting. Both of these teams seem like they could make it pretty good use of Trick Room, so if there is a Trick Room on any of these Pokemon, again, both the Whimsicots have the capability of using it. Chandelure is often, a more common Trick Room setter on Josh's end, but, especially a Pokemon like Conkeldurr, like the Snorlax, very strong in Trick Room, so if either of these players have that option, we could see it on this end, but if you're Aaron, you might not necessarily, feel the need to switch it up. You won game one, you were never in, you were in much danger, so not much of a need to make a huge adjustment unless you predict something pretty big change from Josh. Aaron made some great reads in game one. Oh yeah, the Draco Meteor into the Chandelure switch was a huge turning point for him. That at that point he didn't really have, or Josh rather didn't really have anything left to kind of check that Rotom, other than the Excadrill that did get burned. So kind of rough losing that Chandelure. That was his one fire immunity on the team. So. Cool to see. The Nasty Paw was a big turn from Aaron there. Like you said, Aaron did make some very good plays. That kind of put him in the lead after what was a bit of a shaky turn one. Shaky turn one, but you can always turn it around. Yeah. Looking at team preview, though, I almost want to say, Josh, bring the Araquanid in. I just want to see it. You just want to see it, yeah. I just want to see it. Araquanid, it could be interesting. If Trick Room does go up, it would threaten the Rotom with a very strong liquidation. But we did see the Rotom has Nasty Plot, so very likely very offensively trained. It doesn't really want to take a Thunderbolt in that case, so Josh had to play around with the speeds a little bit if he does decide to bring that Araquanid. Well, we're about to find out. We're getting into game two now, and we're about to see the leads from both of these players. Leading from Aaron's side of the field, we've got Whimsicott and Duraludon once again. Yep. And from Josh's side of the field, it's going to be Excadrill and Whimsicott. Yep. Same leads from game one. Same lead, same positions. We'll see if the turn one moves the same. If you're Aaron, I don't really think you want to see that same turn one, but a lot of options for these players. The Excadrill, still threatens this Duraludon with a very strong ground type attack. He could, opt to Dynamax more quickly, try to get, a bit of an offensive lead as opposed to kind of waiting out the Dynamax in game one. But Aaron, Dynamax, Max Guard, turn one, game one.
didn't seem to work out, but he won the game, so we'll see if he decides to make any big changes here. The same leads, not super surprising, because these are very, like Whimsicott immediately threatening that Tailwind. It's something you have to respect as soon as it's on the field, so not really surprising to see both of those Pokemon here again.
Well, this time, not going to be too much difference, at least from the Dynamax specifics. It is going to be Duraludon once again getting Dynamaxed, and we'll see whether or not it decides to go for a Max Guard once again, similar to Game 1. But I don't know, Aaron might be switching things up here.
We did see the Whimsicott on Aaron's end taunt Josh's Whimsicott before it could Tailwind in the first time, so that may tell you something about how these Whimsicott are trained. This time, though, just going straight for the Tailwind and not a taunt.
He's going for the Tailwind, and that's going to allow this Duraludon to move first once again. Going for the Max Steel Spike into the Whimsicott is going to break the Focus Sash, but that's still going to allow Josh's Whimsicott to do something this turn.
Yeah, that Focus Sash does survive, and not going for a Prankster move, apparently, because we did see that Steel Spike go off. The Duraludon does get a big Steel Spike off into the Whimsicott, actually just going for Moonblast, so respecting the taunt option, which might, come in a little bit of a disservice here, because now this Duraludon get a huge Steel Spike off against Whimsicott. It is at +1 defense, and when you're a Whimsicott and you set up Tailwind to get knocked out the same turn, that's really not a bad thing, because now Aaron gets to bring in something completely for free. Whimsicott
gonna go ahead and get knocked out. I think that was still, I think, a good trade for Aaron.
Right, no, absolutely. Because now, he did lose his Whimsicott, but now he can bring in a Pokemon. He does get Conkeldurr in here, and he doesn't have to worry about switching it in on an attack. He can possibly go for a big fighting type attack into this Excadrill. This Duraludon is sitting pretty at +1 defense, and the Whimsicott, if Whimsicott wants to survive this turn, it's going to have to, or if Whimsicott wants to do something this turn, rather, it's going to have to use one of those Prankster moves, like possibly Tailwind, to match Aaron's Tailwind. Otherwise, even like a Mach Punch could finish it off, another Steel Spike could finish it off. There's a few things Aaron could do here, but we're actually going to see Josh Dynamaxing this turn, too.
Josh Dynamaxing, I'm going to say before we even see the animation, it's going to be that Excadrill
right.
For sure. That Excadrill going to be able to pressure quite a bit onto Aaron's Duraludon. And even, I would say, like, just being able to remove potentially the Conkeldurr as well. But Whimsicott, on Josh's side, will be able to use Tailwind here, and that is going to reset the speed. Excadrill is going to use Max Quake. Max Quake going to connect with Aaron's Duraludon, and it will survive.
Just barely. Thanks to that Steel Spike boost, the Duraludon does hang on after that Max Quake. It will be able to fire off one more attack this turn. Excadrill boosting its special defense means that it will take this attack from Duraludon a little bit better. But we do see Max Steel Spike this time around to boost the defense of the Conkeldurr, which is huge. Now the Conkeldurr has +1 defense, and the Duraludon's at +2 now, so much more well equipped to take on this Excadrill, even though it has Dynamax and it threatens a lot of damage.
Some people might be scratching their head at that turn. What? Using a max move into a 1 HP Whimsicott?
Right.
But it actually makes so much sense, and Drain Punch does a lot of damage.
Yeah, that's huge. The Drain Punch taking Excadrill down pretty low, possibly even in range for something like a Mach Punch, especially Mach Punch plus one more turn of Life Orb Recoil. But Corviknight actually coming in here, a Pokemon that we didn't see in Game 1 from Josh. Corviknight actually a pretty strong check to Conkeldurr, even though Conkeldurr is at +1 defense from that Max Steel Spike. Corviknight does have that very strong attack, Brave Bird, which is a flying type move that will threaten a lot of damage onto Conkeldurr.
Corviknight can also bulk up a lot.
Yes, yeah.
So you could just maybe stall out the game.
Right, no, Corviknight does threaten some bulk ups. It could possibly bulk up its way past Conkeldurr. Conkeldurr has access to moves like Thunder Punch, but even though that is super effective, it's not going to have that same type of attack bonus. It's really not going to be doing much damage at all, especially if Corviknight does start getting those defense boosts. Although Corviknight does really hate to see Rotom, so if Aaron does have that Rotom in the back, that could be a saving grace against this Corviknight here.
Well, we might find out. This is going to be a Conkeldurr,
yep,
getting switched out, and it's going to be Rotom coming in. That is going to be a bit of a problem. Josh's Excadrill now going to use its Max Guard here to protect itself from the Wormrind coming out from Aaron's Duraludon. And we're actually going to see a Brave Bird go into the Rotom slot. And that's not going to do too much damage.
No, not much at all. Rotom does resist it thanks to that electric typing. And that was actually kind of a risky switch from Aaron there. So if Josh did decide to target the Conkeldurr slot with something like a Max Quake, Aaron would have just lost the Rotom immediately. But Aaron correctly predicting that the Excadrill wouldn't Max Quake that slot. Josh likely trying to Max Guard to stall out the last turn of the Dynamax from Aaron, and possibly try to shield itself from something like a Mach Punch from Conkeldurr as well. Brave Bird, not doing much damage to Rotom. It does kind of chip it down a little bit, but this Excadrill still threatens with a Max Quake. Thanks to that Mold Breaker ability, we'll be able to do a lot of damage to this Rotom, easily knock it out in one hit if he does target that slot.
Well, something might get targeted in that slot, but it's not going to be the Rotom anymore. It's going to be the Conkeldurr that comes back in, and Max Quake going to go through with the Excadrill. Goes into the Rotom slot there, so
wow.
yeah, Conkeldurr actually is going to take that with a huge hit.
Yeah, taking a lot of damage from that Max Quake, boosting special defense even further. And that's pretty huge for Corviknight now, because Corviknight now is at +1 special defense and has the ability to possibly withstand an attack from the Rotom. And Draco Meteor, we saw from Duraludon, not even able to pick up the KO in Excadrill, thanks to those special defense boosts from the 2 Max Quakes.
Brave Bird now, just as a fire back here from Josh's side of the field onto the Duraludon. It also hangs on to...
Yeah.
That's not very much HP left.
No, not at all. The Duraludon did have those max Steel Spike boosts as well, so coming in handy there. And obviously Duraludon will knock itself out with one more turn of Life Orb Recoil. But this Excadrill, very threatening Pokemon on Josh's side still, especially if the Conkeldurr can be eliminated by something like this Corviknight, because Excadrill is faster than Duraludon and Rotom, I believe we've seen, and threatens both of them with a very strong ground type attack. So this Conkeldurr is going to be very important for Aaron to kind of manage this Excadrill, but the Corviknight's also standing in its way, so Aaron's got to play very carefully around these last few Pokemon.
Yeah, Conkeldurr is definitely could get knocked out there by any sort of move coming in from the Corviknight, but Umbreon as Josh's final Pokemon going to hit the field, and Conkeldurr getting switched out again. It's just kind of a rotating door Pokemon here for Aaron,
right.
hoping that this is going to pay off because Rotom's now going to be back in its place, and that might have actually just saved the Conkeldurr.
Let's save the Conkeldurr this turn, but the Corviknight's still, leery. The Corviknight has a lot of damage to go until it gets knocked out. And we do see the Rotom actually eat on its berry, so a little bit of information there for Josh. The Rotom is carrying that Citrus Berry. The Duraludon trying to finish off the Excadrill with a Draco Meteor, but this Umbreon will come in, take it with ease because it did already have that -2 drop. So the Corviknight's going to be able to threaten this Conkeldurr. The Rotom actually, possibly able to take it out. The Corviknight did take some damage from that Brave Bird recoil, but it's going to be very tough because our Corviknight still does have that +1 special defense boost from the Max Quake.
Special defense definitely coming in strong here for this Corviknight, and this might have been just the perfect adjustment Josh needed to bring this Corviknight to really threaten some sustainability to Aaron.
Yeah, Corviknight was a huge deal here because the only Pokemon that Aaron was bringing that could really threaten the Corviknight is this Rotom. And we're going to see this overheat. This Max Quake boost might be enough to save it, and it is, just barely.
It is.
Wow.
That is going to be enough to save it. Corviknight's going to be able to get off a final attack, and actually showing off a little bit more information as well. Has a Citrus Berry, too.
The Brave Bird is easily going to be able to take out this Conkeldurr based on how low its HP is. And the Umbreon, we saw it snarling last game. We might see it snarl another time here. We drop this Rotom down to -3 special attack. And in that case, it's going to be very limited in its options. I could just see a Foul Play instead, though.
Foul Play doing a chunk of damage there. Even with the critical hit, Rotom is still going to have a tough time getting through these last 3 Pokemon from Josh.
Especially that Excadrill in the back. As long as Excadrill comes in, it doesn't miss that high horsepower. It does have that unfortunate, small miss chance. But this game does look like it's sealed up for Josh here. So the Corviknight coming in, huge here. That Conkeldurr, a really big Pokemon on Aaron's side of the field that the Corviknight is very good at checking. So very smart switch up from Josh to bring this Corviknight game to. And it looks like he should be able to take the second game and force a game 3.
Umbreon using Yawn as well. This is going to really seal the deal here for Josh if Rotom's not able to knock out both Pokemon in the next turn.
I mean, even just the Umbreon itself, Rotom will have a very hard time breaking through that based on how low its special attack is now. This Excadrill, very low HP, one more Life Orb recoil will knock it out, but that's actually all it needs just to hit this Rotom one more time, then this game will be over.
Let's think about game 3 then.
Yes.
What kind of adjustment do you feel as though Aaron's going to need to make in order to come back?
I mean, the Corviknight is a pretty big deal for him. He has to kind of find a way around that. A bit unfortunately for Aaron, his best option against that Corviknight is absolutely that Rotom. Togekiss doesn't really like facing down Corviknight, and it is a Steel type. Resists both of its, flying and fairy type moves. Sometimes carries fire type attacks. So Togekiss is carrying something like a flamethrower, maybe a heat wave. That could be a good bring for game 3, but I think as long as he is able to kind of focus down that Corviknight and eliminate it before it can do big damage to his Conkeldurr, that will be Aaron's win ticket here.
Because on Josh's side, the Corviknight worked. So
absolutely, yeah.
I feel like you bring it again.
Yeah, I mean, I would have I would be kind of surprised if we didn't see Corviknight again. Maybe he's predicting like a big over adjustment for the Corviknight on Aaron. He kind of brings it or leaves it behind in favor of some other things. But the Corviknight put in so much work, and there's not really much on Aaron's team that can threaten this Corviknight, other than that Rotom, which obviously Rotom did a huge amount of damage even past that +1 special defense. So that kind of enough information to glean that very likely would have been knocked out by an overheat had it not had that +1 special defense. So got to be careful around the Rotom. But if you're able to possibly snarl it once or twice, maybe bait an overheat and get a -2 special attack, then your Corviknight's a little bit safer against the Rotom and can help out against the teammates as well.
I was going to say, I really like how Umbreon is being utilized here in this team composition by Josh. It's just been such a great supportive Pokemon, and you also love to see an evolution.
I know, yeah. We did see Umbreon at the World Championships not too long ago back in August. I believe it got second there. So pretty big finish from Umbreon there. Kind of trying to make a splash here in Dallas again. But we're right here at Team Preview for Game 3. And these two players thinking about, their options here. Aaron's got to make an adjustment after losing Game 2. Possibly, trying to use the same kind of strategy in Game 1. I think we saw the Rotom come in before the Conkeldurr in Game 1. So maybe trying to, switch up the order he uses his Pokemon, maybe opt for a different lead, whereas Josh, coming off a win in Game 2, trying to see if he can build on that momentum here in Game 3.
I feel like Whimsicott's still to play.
I mean, yeah, Whimsicott is almost never not to play. It's such a good Pokemon.
Just particularly because they both threaten the Tailwind.
Right.
So I feel as though you also always need to have something in check for that.
Yeah, absolutely. It's interesting though, we can see the HP stats on these two Whimsicotts, and I believe Aaron's is much lower than Josh's. So it's possible that Josh's Whimsicott isn't, fully trained in speed. And so that turn 1, taunt and Tailwind interaction we saw in Game 1, possibly could have been a speed tie if they were both, trained to the max in speed. But, probably more likely that Aaron is a little bit faster than Josh is. So if they do see two Whimsicotts up on the field again, that could be an interaction they both have to keep in mind.
We did see Aaron's Whimsicott move first in that Game 2 also.
Yes. Yeah, I think it tailwinded and Josh's just went from Moonblast. So there wasn't that prankster interaction, but you're definitely right. We did see that tailwind, which helped out immediately, but Josh was able to match that tailwind the next turn because that Whimsicott was still on the field and didn't get taunted. So again, something these two players have to manage is how they use their prankster tailwinds and possibly other forms of speed control if they are carrying them.
Well, let's see if there are any adjustments. It's going to be Game 3 here between Josh Ritz and Aaron Zheng. Looking at the Pokemon that they're going to lead with. Aaron getting ready to throw those Pokeballs here.
Looks like the same ones.
Going to be the exact same leads here. Yep. Whimsicott and Duraludon for Aaron, and it's going to be Whimsicott and Excadrill once again for Josh. Yeah. Imagine that.
That's funny. They're in the same exact spots every time, too. So we got the Whimsicott staring each other down, and then the two Steel types locked in each other's gaze. But yeah, again, we have the same lead. We've had two very different turn 1s in these past 2 games, so interesting to see how these players opt to go for this Game 3, because obviously Game 3, the most important game in the set, because the winner will take this round.
Game 3, big stakes on the line.
Yes.
Both players, I think, are sitting undefeated at the moment.
Yeah, they're both 2-0, I believe. Yep.
Yeah. But there's still a long day ahead.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
So there's still many more games to play. You need a decent record to move forward onto tomorrow's top cut, but I think both players are still well within the range of error, I would say.
A little bit, yeah. There's some room. We do see this Dynamax, not Excadrill, that is Duraludon.
One of the Steel types, you had a 50% chance.
Right, I just got strong. No, the Duraludon does immediately Dynamax again, so, 3rd time in 3 games we do see this turn 1 Dynamax, and not out of the Excadrill this time. We actually see fake tears come out from the Whimsicott.
Wow. Aaron's Whimsicott going for fake tears. This is a different move that we've seen every single game to start things off here. Whimsicott going to get knocked out in the process because of the double into it from Josh, but Duraludon still has yet to make a move.
This Max Wormwind is going to be doing a ton of damage. Now this Excadrill's at -2 special defense, and it's enough to knock it out.
Wow.
That is huge for Aaron. This Excadrill was largely Josh's main way to knock out this Rotom Heat on Aaron's end. So unless Josh brought something like the Araquanid this time around, this Rotom Heat's going to have almost free reign against Josh's team, especially if those last 2 Pokemon are the Corviknight and the Umbreon. Especially Corviknight really doesn't want to be taking that overheat. That's such a huge fake tears. That's really well managed by Aaron. He didn't reveal fake tears at all in those first 2 games. And he knew that in the last game, Josh went for that Moonblast and Iron Head into Whimsicott. So possibly, gambiting that Josh would go for it again. I think the only thing that could have ended that turn poorly for Aaron is if the Excadrill had maxed and gone for Max Quake. into the Duraludon, but, you know, calling that wouldn't happen very correctly. Now this Duraludon able to take out the Excadrill in one hit, and now it looks like, you know, Josh might have a little bit of trouble firing off some offense because that Excadrill was really his main offensive Pokemon if he is bringing, you know, this Umbreon and the Corviknight again.
That was the main target for the Dynamax for Josh.
Yes.
And now that it was removed from the field, there really isn't that much offensive pressure. So we'll have to see what this Umbreon is capable of, because we have seen it get off a couple of foul plays. But Tailwind coming out first, Snarl as well, going to connect with both Rotom and Duraludon on Aaron's field, and that is going to get the special attack drops.
Yeah, it's nice for Josh, though. The Tailwind making the Umbreon faster than both the Duraludon and the Rotom, so it does get the Snarl off. Although this Max Steel Spike's still going to hurt, bring this Focus Dash, bring the Whimsicott down to its Focus Sash, boost the defense of both the Rotom and the Duraludon. Not a big deal against these two Pokemon, but Umbreon does have access to Foul Play, so we'll, I guess, reduce that Foul Play damage. Most importantly, getting the damage on the Whimsicott, though.
Absolutely. But Rotom also revealing a new move here. It's going to be Thunderbolt just to finish off the last bit of HP there on that Whimsicott for Josh. Yeah,
a smart move by Aaron there. You know, he knows the Whimsicott has that Focus Sash, and he's able to, you know, get rid of the Focus Sash with the Steel Spike, and then finish it off with that Thunderbolt. And we do see that Corviknight is the last Pokemon for Josh. So this Rotom Heat, you know, really not threatened much by anything at all. It is at -1 special attack now. The Umbreon will be able to Snarl it once more before it can attack. So it might be at -2 before it can fire off an Overheat, but we did see that Nasty Plot already. And so obviously Snarl not going to do much damage at all. Corviknight, if it's running Brave Bird and possibly Iron Head as its second attack, with that stab boost from the Iron Head Steel typing, then it really won't be able to damage Rotom much at all. So something like a Nasty Plot, you know, could mitigate these Snarls. And we have yet to see Aaron's third Pokemon as well, fourth Pokemon rather. So you know, Aaron looking like he's in a very commanding position here.
Well, we are going to see a Dynamax from Josh, but the question is what?
Right.
Haven't gotten a chance to see anything other than the Excadrill Dynamax, and it's actually going to be Corviknight.
I believe that's the Gigantamax.
That is the Gigantamax
yeah.
Corviknight,
so
I guess.
The first Gigantamax we've seen so far,
I
believe.
It is. How exciting.
Yeah. So I guess instead of having access to Max Airstream, it's going to have access to, I believe it's called G-Max Wind Rage. And instead of boosting speed, it actually just clears out effects of attacks like Light Screen and Reflect. That's not a big deal here. You possibly would have rather had the Airstream for those speed boosts, but the Umbreon just trying to lower its the special attack of these two Pokemon a little bit more.
Also clears hazards as well, that Wind Rage.
Yes, that is correct. Yep.
So anything like, can't even think about it right now, Pointed Stones.
Yeah.
Pointed Stones on the field, but that's not here. Duraludon is going to be able to get off a big attack here, but Will-O-Wisp into the Max Guard is actually going to miss. So really great plays so far from both of these players, and I think that just seeing the Gigantamax is such a treat.
Yeah, Gigantamax Corviknight, really cool looking Pokemon. It's got the kind of like the red accents under its wings. But Aaron, you know, trying to go for that Will-O-Wisp, he knew that his Rotom was at, you know, very low special attack, so an Overheat wouldn't have done much damage at all. Will-O-Wisp would have limited the damage from this Corviknight. You know, Max Guarding, you know, possibly to prevent an Overheat, possibly to just make sure the Umbreon could Snarl a couple more times. And then obviously to stop the last turn of that Dynamax from the Duraludon. Well,
Duraludon is now going to be using Protect Itself, and it will have to take this Max Steel Spike coming in from the Corviknight, but man, that doesn't do very much.
2 damage?
Did not do very much there, but I think the more important part is the defense boost that both this Umbreon as well as the Corviknight are going to get. Umbreon also revealing that it has Taunt, so we won't actually be able to see the Rotom get rid of the drops that it had.
No, yeah, you know, it can't Nasty Plot now that it's been taunted. It can't Will-O-Wisp either, but you know, obviously this Rotom, like Aaron still has a Pokemon in the back, so Aaron could switch out this Rotom, kind of clear those special attack drops, wait for this Corviknight to, you know, finish its G-Max, and then try to fire off an Overheat. We did see I guess we saw Max Steel Spike from the Corviknight, so typically it runs Iron Head if it's running a Steel-type move. Those defense boosts will actually help the Umbreon out if the Conkeldurr is the last Pokemon for Aaron. Won't do much for the Corviknight against this Rotom because it is a special attacker, and that Wind Rage did so little damage thanks to those Steel Spike boosts.
Wow, and the Snarl as well, just chipping away at the health pools that both of the Pokemon on Aaron's field have. It's not too much damage though, so this Draco Meteor hopefully going to be pressuring quite a bit here into this Umbreon. And never mind.
Yeah, I mean, the Duraludon is at pretty low special attack at this point, you know, likely at -6.
That's why I said hopeful.
Yeah. The Thunderbolt doing also a very small amount of damage.
Oh, but gets the
paralysis, though. That's big.
That is big.
It's big because, well, it's big for a couple reasons, because now this Corviknight, you know, it has that halved speed from the paralysis. It has that 25% chance to be fully paralyzed every turn, but also Rotom can't burn it anymore, which is a bit of a boon for the Corviknight. It can't have its attacks halved in power from that Will-O-Wisp, but obviously never getting paralyzed is never a great thing, especially from a Thunderbolt. We did see Tailwind in that turn, which means that the Rotom and the Duraludon should be faster than both of Josh's Pokemon. So Aaron very likely waiting for that Tailwind to end before he starts to make some offensive moves.
Duraludon now going for a Dark Pulse. We've seen quite a few of the moves from this Duraludon now, but not doing too much damage to this Corviknight, but that's clearly the target for both of the Pokemon from Aaron's field. It still does a lot. It will pop the berry, though.
Yes, that Citrus Berry going to heal Corviknight up a little bit. If Corviknight is carrying Roost, we'll be able to heal itself up a little bit more. But it has to deal with that fully paralyzed chance now, so a little bit risky on Josh's end. We are just going to see a Brave Bird this turn, though.
Brave Bird into the Duraludon, still not doing too much, but there's still the chance that we will be able to... Oh. What was Rotom going for there?
The taunt just ended. So it had been taunted out of the Umbreon a couple turns ago. I'm kind of surprised that we haven't seen Aaron's third Pokemon.
Right.
Possibly not wanting to switch in on a Brave Bird with this Conkeldurr. But now that the Rotom has been yawned, it might be time for the Rotom to switch out, reset those special attack drops, be able to come back in later and finish off this Corviknight with something like a Thunderbolt or an Overheat, and then put itself in better position to take out this Umbreon as well. The Duraludon is at very low HP. We do know it is carrying the Life Orb, so one more attack will knock it out from that Life Orb recoil. So if Aaron does switch out, he will get a free switch back into the Rotom, but he actually just leaves in both his Pokemon, going for a bit more damage with this Dark Pulse, and presumably one more Thunderbolt.
Is that going to be enough to take out this Corviknight, though? I think Aaron is hoping at this point where we will get a knockout here, but it's still not going to be enough. Umbreon going for the foul play is still going to do some chip damage to this Rotom, but the Rotom is just super bulky right now.
It's very bulky. It's about to go to sleep as well from that yawn. So if Corviknight is able to roost here, that would be pretty nice to save some of its HP. But it's actually just going straight for a Brave Bird, possibly not carrying that roost option, possibly just trying to read a Conkeldurr switch in there too. So the Corviknight Brave Birds itself down to a pretty low HP with that 18 HP stat. Very low now, able to be picked off by anything that Aaron has in the back. The Rotom does go to sleep, so it's a little bit of a reprieve for Josh, but he does have to deal with this full health Conkeldurr. And, we've already seen the Mach Punch, we've seen the Drain Punch. We know that Umbreon only has, that Snarl and Foul Play to attack this Conkeldurr. So, Aaron very well managing his resources here, not playing risky at all, just making sure he can get this Conkeldurr in a position where he can finish off the game with it, without having to risk taking a Brave Bird. So, even though Aaron possibly could have won this game a little bit quicker, clearly there's no reason to. He's in a very good spot here.
Oh, Umbreon using Yawn, though.
Yeah,
can't forget about Yawn.
Yeah, you can't forget about Yawn, but even, assuming that Conkeldurr knocks out Corviknight here, it actually is carrying that Thunder Punch.
Yeah.
So a pretty unique move there on Conkeldurr, able to hit those water types and the flying types. But the Corviknight does go down. We will see Conkeldurr go to sleep on the following turn if it is able, or if it's not able to knock out this Umbreon. But even so, Conkeldurr will easily be able to weather any attack Umbreon can throw at it until it wakes up. So presumably a Drain Punch coming out from Conkeldurr to finish off this Umbreon here, but it does look like Josh actually just forfeits. So Aaron is able to